Hello, and welcome to this episode of Fellowship in Essential Oils. This week, we're diving into one of the chamomile family, probably a lesser known one, but still a good one to have in your collection. It's German chamomile. How are you, Liz?
I am really looking forward to telling people about German chamomile. Um,
Yes.
I'm surprised. Do you think it is one of the lesser known ones? It is I think it's one of the most important essential oils there is.
Actually, no, as I was saying that, I was like, hold on. Just because I don't use it that much and it's not normally in my collection, it probably is used quite a lot. And I think we're going to really kind of unearth lots of its different uses today. So
Well, let's start with that then. So, what other chamomiles do you know, and what other people might know? Start with that.
I guess Roman is the one that I find the most readily available and readily around, and that's probably the one I work with the most. And I'd really like us today to separate what's the difference between Roman chamomile and German chamomile, because I know they are different on all different levels. And I guess then you're kind of going into those more like the tansies and that kind of thing that work into that chamomile family. But I guess if we're talking chamomiles, there's Roman and German, really, isn't there?
Yeah, I also work with another one called chamomile Maroc or Moroccan chamomile, which is not actually a chamomile, although it's in the name. That's Ormanis multicoilis, but that is kind of similar to these. Presumably, it got the name because it acts like a chamomile. And as you
Mm.
quite rightly say, Roman chamomile and well, I'm going to say blue chamomile, chamomile matricaria. Also, it can sometimes be called matricaria recutita. So it's got lots of different names, but probably the one that people know it by best is blue chamomile because it is blue. It has this beautiful hue to it. And so you would expect that the plant would be blue, but it's not. It's a daisy. Have you got it there? I can see you
I have, yeah.
messing. Have you got
If
it
I
to
hold up
show?
my hand, there you go. If you're listening to the podcast, this isn't going to help, but you can see it on my hand. Nice and it's beautiful, soft blue.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So I have to say, I was very, very generously given some by Madeline Kirkhoff when my husband first got ill. She very generously sent me lots of oils that I needed. And hers is even bluer than that. Hers is this colour. And I
Wow.
haven't got that. I haven't got that to show because I've used so much of it. You can hardly see any in the bottle, so I need to replace it. But I should be going straight back to Madeline to get hers because it's absolutely stunning. And one of my most treasured memories in life is actually seeing blue chamomile being distilled. So
Mm.
I was very lucky. I was taken on a business trip to Bulgaria to see the rose harvest actually. And we visited various distilleries and they were distilling blue chamomile there. And they got, see, like, I'll describe the process in case anybody doesn't know distillation. I'm sure that they do, but the plant matter goes into a still. So steam distillation, water's put underneath. As the steam comes through, it evaporates into a gas, obviously, and then what happens is it takes away out the molecules, the light enough molecules across, and then usually there's like a coil that's like a condenser. So as it comes down, it's surrounded usually by cold water or ice so that it condenses down and separates into water with um, oil on top. And this still had got like a glass part that you could see the oil coming down into. So you saw these beautiful white coloured daisies going in and it's swooshing around as it changed blue as it was coming out. And it was absolutely alchemy to me. I just thought it was the most incredible thing I'd ever seen. And this blue comes from a constituent or a group of constituents called azulines. And in chamomile specifically, it's chamazuline, but it exists in many different plants. We talked about it, if you remember, in yarrow. We also have azulines in yarrow. And the azulines are magical things because they're like liquid anesthetic. So this kind of brings us to the key difference between Roman chamomile and blue chamomile or German chamomile or matricaria, whatever you want to call it. They are fantastic anti-inflammatories, but when you've got the blue azulines come through, then that is anesthetic too. And when we're talking about uses, really the two are interchangeable. You're kind of going, I think personally, on intuition each time of right, well, which one feels best. But I always say that chamomiles sing to me when I'm in the garden. We have quite a lot of chamomile because botanically it's what's called a physician plant. So if you plant chamomile around other plants, what it does is enhances their capabilities. So they become more floriferous. They have much more constituents. They bear more fruit. So you want them in between your cabbages and your chamomiles and all and your carrots. All of those things will grow better because it's a physician plant, and that's been said right since medieval times. But of course, the bees really love chamomile too. And that might be part of it, that they're attracted and then they pollinate better. You were going to ask something then.
I was going to say, I don't think this is so, but I'll just throw the question out there unless you think or know otherwise. You said that it obviously, as a plant, it enhances the other plants. As an oil, does it enhance the other oils?
Yes,
Ah,
I
okay.
think so. I think
Yeah.
so. And so where the world tends to throw lavender into everything to calm it down, lavender has this ability to dry things out. So if you are a sort of the older disposition and your skin is already drying out, then lavender can be quite problematic because all you're going to do is get drier skin. Whereas chamomile, I think, has the same soothing capabilities, physically, emotionally, and mentally soothing capabilities. And because of that, because it brings the nervous system down, the body is more capable of healing, I think. So I talked about how they sing. It is the most bizarre thing because people always look at me and go, "What?" But when I go near to a chamomile oil or go into the garden, they're always like, imagine they've got a very tall stem. They're like daisies with very tall stems, and they're like so delicate. And they're like wafted in the air, and they go, "Que sera, sera, whatever will be, will be." Just like Doris Day. And I'm just like, that is exactly the medicine. When you put it on, it's like, whoa, yeah, whatever. Just let it go. And it is profoundly anxiolytic and profoundly antidepressant. And there's so much scientific evidence to prove that. And I do think it's this whatever will be, feeling. It's almost like a Buddhist kind of non-attachment thing of just going, I'm just not going to worry about it. Just going to leave it out to the universe. And so I think because of that, that's probably where the physician plant part comes from in terms of putting it into blends, that it will enhance the effects of other things, I think.
It's interesting what you
So,
said. Oh, sorry, go on.
so I was going to say that. So I wish that there was like scientific studies I could draw on to be able to prove that to you. But there's only really one that I know of off the top of my head, and that's a wound healing trial where they use sort of plasters and wound dressings that had been covered with colloidal silver. And they proved that the colloidal silver worked even better when chamomile matricaria was added to it, because probably the anti-inflammatory abilities of it, but also that it stings less. It's very antibacterial, very antimicrobial, anti-absolutely everything, to be honest. It's a really, really good oil to use.
It's interesting what you're saying about that you can kind of, whether you use Roman or German/blue chamomile, follow your intuition. For me, I've always found that when it comes to more kind of that need for soothing, whether it be soothing the skin from irritation or soothing the emotions and that kind of thing, that's where Roman chamomile, which is a golden colored oil, comes in. Whereas if it is more that like anti-inflammatory, I kind of find that the blue works really well for that, if that makes sense.
So it does, and I always find this distinction incredibly difficult to describe. But actually, you did well there, I think. I usually say it's the if something is stinging, then I would use matricaria. And in terms of anti-inflammatory, as in skin inflammation, I would always go for matricaria. Same applies for like IBS and gastro and colitis and those kind of things. Lots of evidence for how anti-inflammatory it is. But if something like your ankle is swollen, then I would go Roman chamomile over it. But again, that's just years of going. I don't think it's written anywhere, or I think every aromatherapist comes to their own decisions by it.
I have seen German chamomile used a lot in kind of muscle kind of rubs and mixes and that
Mm-hmm.
kind of thing. You'd find for that kind of injuries of muscles it would work well as well.
I couldn't tell you a single time when there would be but where it would be wrong to use it, to be honest. It just is a really good healer. It is the physician plant. I think it does everything.
So
So
obviously,
temperature, stings, any of those things, I would always use it.
obviously being both the camomiles being quite gentle oils, pretty good on the skin, but still obviously dilution would be needed.
Yes. Yeah. And there's like an economical part to that. It is an expensive oil. And so why would you use, the body's not only going to be able to use a certain amount and the rest is going to be used, like thrown away through waste. So yeah, you couldn't overdose on it, but you're really wasting it if you don't dilute it. And also it's so pretty, it of course sends your blend beautifully blue. And particularly if you use it in like a moisturizer for broken skins, for sunburn, for rosacea, you get that beautiful blue, very, very pale blue tinge to your cream, which is just very pleasing, I think.
And I think also when you're thinking about, like skincare, especially and when the skin is red, we kind of opposite to red in a way is kind of, that bluish. So it's really nice to kind of counteract that coloring. And that's how I often think of, okay, well, if it's that red, then we probably need the German chamomile in that case.
Yeah, and so if you think about it in terms of Ayurvedic doshas, if you think about how Pitta dosha, I am Pitta dosha, I've got the red hair, the very pale skin. Pitta dosha reacts to heat badly. We will always burn. If there's going to be a water infection, it's going to really hurt. If we've got reactive skins in every way. Pitta dosha is reactive. It's like the combination between oil and water. That is exactly what that dosha does. And specifically, chamomile matricaria in India is used to soothe Pitta dosha. So any kind of situation where it is hot, reactive, diarrhea, heartburn, cystitis, painful periods, inflamed tempers, all of those things are Pitta dosha. So in Ayurveda, in all cases, it would be chamomile matricaria they would go for.
Interesting. This is a tangent we can go off on another day, but I wonder, looking at the different doshas, whether, it's interesting you said German chamomile is really great for you, and you obviously have a great affection for it. Whereas for me, German chamomile, if someone said you can't have it again, it's a take it or leave it oil for me. And I'd obviously be a different dosha to you. So I wonder whether the oils that support the dosha, we have a natural inclination towards them.
Oh, I think that's certainly true. It's certainly true. So I think that also seasonally we go for them. So we'll often, for example, talk about oils for Christmas. Well, they're warming oils, aren't they?
Yeah.
And Pitta dosha really likes winter because we like to huddle up by the fire. We we get the warmth back in summer. I just hate summer. There's no way that I could live where you live. And so in the summer, I really couldn't use things like cinnamon and clove, but definitely in the winter because I want to pull that dosha up. And likewise, if somebody's Vata dosha, then they would be the same. They would always want to try and get that warmth in. They certainly wouldn't want to it wouldn't gravitate to things like mint or spearmint because that's cold and the body already feels cold.
Yeah, fascinating. Now I'm really interested as well. I was kind of reflecting before we jumped on today to, okay, emotionally, how do you describe the difference between them? And I think for me, if I had to give analogies for the two chamomiles, I find I often personify Roman chamomile as being like a deer, very gentle and delicate. Whereas when it comes to German chamomile, I would say its comforting aspect is more like a weighted blanket in
Okay,
the way
yeah,
that
I like that.
yeah, it seems to Roman chamomile does feel a little bit lighter and more gentle. This is still definitely a soft oil, but it's kind of like a gentle giant in some ways to me.
So I would struggle to be able to split between the two for emotional and mental. I think that Roman chamomile and blue chamomile do similarly good jobs.
Hmm.
So personally, I would save my blue chamomile for physical medicine because
Okay.
it's cheaper and what have you. So because I've got two bottles, that would be the choice that I've got. But in terms of spirituality, I think that blue chamomile has a more nebulous effect. So when I talked about the hey Sarah and like that, I always say that like it's like lying down on the grass and cloud watching. And you know how you kind of suddenly not of this world, it moves you into a different space. Well, blue chamomile can do that. It's like looking at the blue sky. um, and later you'll ask what planet, so I will use that now. So I would say it's very good for Saturn medicine, and I'll explain that. But I definitely think it's Neptunian because it's blue. And anything that's Neptunian is nebulous, it's vague, it's dreamy. And I think that that feeling of being able to lift out of your physical body and just let that deal with the shit. I'm just going off somewhere else. Is very good for anxiety. It's very good for depression. If you were just saying, I want to treat anxiety, depression, I don't think there's anything between it. But if you had somebody who had the abilities to be able to lift out the physical body and remove themselves and go to like a different plane or like an astral journey or something like that, then that's blue chamomile is very good for that kind of stuff.
I love what you shared there about Neptune because I was actually struggling for which planet, and I was like, I'm sure it'll come to me by the end of this conversation, and I think I'm going to agree with you. I love what you said there, and I find that this is a really great oil for, first of all, sometimes we all want to grow and evolve as people and go on our spiritual quest and all that type of thing. But sometimes we're too bloody busy chasing our own tail to even have a moment to do that. And I find that German Camel is a real nice supporter for actually allowing you to kind of find a little space where you can find that solution out of the rat race or out of that maze or when you are chasing your tail in that type of way. Really beautiful in that. I do like it for, like we're talking, it's very anti-inflammatory. I do love it for anger. I love it for frustration or any of those fiery emotions. I find, where probably German chamomile, I would use it more if you were feeling fiery about something that's happened out there. Whereas I find Roman chamomile brings in this real gentleness about, especially if you've been a bit critical to yourself and beating yourself up. I'd kind of, that's where I might, I'm on a real mission to differentiate them today, I can tell. So, that would be where I'd kind of use that. But I love also what you're saying in that nebulous kind of way, because I do find blue chamomile really, really great in connecting to kind of the wisdom bearers throughout the different eons that we've had. So, whether it be Archangel Gabriel, I find it's really great for connecting with like Atlantean energy, or Lemurian energy, Merlin energy, Hermes or Mercury energy, Thoth energy, that kind of allowing that wisdom and that guidance to come through by giving ourselves that space for that contemplation and reflection And then that's when the epiphanies come, when we create that space in our lives. So I think it's a real kind of space creator in that way as well.
Yeah, although I would say that chamomile doesn't expect you to stop. Some
Mm-hmm.
oils go, no, you need cardamom in particular goes, you will sit down and you will contemplate. You will think about how far you've gone. Chamomile goes, it's almost like the energy of somebody running a marathon and they grab a water as they go, but they carry on
Okay.
running. Chamomiles are like that. They go, well, what do you need now? What do you need now? Throw it at you. So, right, I've got a sore arm. Right, okay, do that. Oh, I can't sleep. Right, okay, let's do that. And you just keep going. You can keep going. And in the same way as like she's in the garden and she's growing and she's going, carrots, what do you need? Right, here, have that butterfly. Cabbage, what do you need? Right, let's get rid of that insect. And she's just like everywhere. And she doesn't want you to stop. And so I do agree that they have those kinds of connections. But if you're looking for an oil to work with long term, to make a long term relationship, you'll struggle because she ain't interested in you long term. Not like Melissa wanted to work with me for 4 years. Chamomile just goes, I'm too busy. Just do it. Oh, yeah. So yeah, she'll open the door for you, but she'll expect you to do the work yourself.
Yeah. So we're unlikely to see a German chamomile book come out from you, yeah?
Well, no, because I agree that you probably are unlikely to, because that information is really accessible with German chamomile. So even the FDA says you've proven this oil. You've proven everything that Matricaria can do. Traditional medicine has proved it over and over again. I think something like 50% of all drugs on the market now are synthesized. Don't quote this an exact thing, but are synthesized from plant extracts of some description. So they've caught up now. They know what they can do. In terms of Matricaria, they just go, it's pointless us putting restrictions on this anymore. So you can very easily get your hands on information. But also, there's so much out there that would be overwhelming to try and write that book, because there's just so much. But likewise, there's almost like no spiritual stories for me to draw on. There's no archetypes and stuff because it's in the physical body.
Yeah, and that was going to be my next question. I'm not aware of many or any, to be honest, any mythological or kind of references to it. It's just working with the physical, I guess.
Yeah, I think it is a physical body oil. It definitely knows how to do other things, but its importance is in the physical and the mental, emotional bodies. It's very, very down there. And so, yeah, I don't think, I think the other thing is maybe there's no need for myths, because I think everybody has always known it in plant medicine, in eons back. All wives knew how to use plants, and just in the same way that you can buy chamomile tea, it's just there, isn't it? It's just there for everybody. There isn't secrets about it. It's just in the public domain and always has been.
Yeah. Is this an oil that you would use mainly topically?
Yeah, it is actually. I don't think. Well, funny enough, I spilt a bit in a box of oils the other day, and it was overwhelming. I just thought, actually, I don't really like the smell. And I don't, and all I was thinking of was, right, I have to move that box. I don't like the smell. It didn't take me anywhere, if you know what I mean. It didn't, like, if you have ylang ylang, you'll feel that difference happening. All it was like, I just have to move that. But on the actual skin, and of course you can use it orally, but I would say don't use the oil. That's what chamomile tea is. It's chamomile matricaria. So drink chamomile tea. But it's proven for oral use. All of those things. It's physical, topical. Yeah.
Yeah. Thinking, obviously chamomile tea is something everyone's ears might have sprung up there and go, oh, well, we drink our chamomile tea for getting a good night's sleep. If I don't have my chamomile tea, but I've got my German chamomile, how would you use it in that case for getting a good night's rest?
On the back of the neck.
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
But
I
I
would go
think
neck, chest, and soles for
neck
feet.
or yeah, well, so you love the soles of the feet. I'm not a soles of the feet person. To me, this here is the best, is the gateway to the bloodstream. You can see it. So
Yeah.
just rub it on there. That's it. In.
And I must say, I have been popping a few oils there in the last year or so because I am someone who kind of sleeps with my hands up here. So obviously, getting that aromatic use when you've got it, depending on how you sleep, that works really well as well. Yeah.
Yeah, and if you've got feet like mine, which are continuously needing attention because I walk around with no shoes on and I go in the bath every single day, then that makes your heels and your feet quite the skin quite thick.
Yeah.
So this is thin, and look how beautiful and delicate my white skin is. So it goes straight in you. That's 19
Mm.
minutes. I don't think it would go through my feet in 19 minutes. That's for sure.
Yeah, I gotcha. Yep. So we've talked about astrology. I'm gonna jump on your bandwagon and go. Yeah, I'd say it's a Neptune one. What would you say chakra wise if you were anointing on a chakra?
Before we go on to chakras, I will add that I would also say a Saturn. So
Okay.
situations where the body is um, aching and life is dull and feels restrictive and feels like you are hemmed in by boundaries and deadlines and all of that shit,
Mm.
then that's Saturn, and that would be useful. But yeah, I would say Neptune rulership. I don't know really for chakra. I think all of them, to be honest. I would say, it has that grounding element, connecting with the ancestors. That's root. If you've got bad painful periods, helpful. That's sacral. Digestive system, certainly. That's solar plexus. Definitely, if you're feeling angry, upset, real heartbreak, that's heart. Sore throat, yes, I would definitely use it for sore throat. Also nasty, like sharp words, all of those things. Throat chakra. I've talked about astral projection, moving out of the physical body. That's brow chakra. In terms of connecting and going, well, it sings it, whatever will be, will be. That's as crown chakra or mantra as you're going to get. So I'm going to say all of them.
All of them. Well, I'm going to be a bit more specific. I find because of I do really like it for that ability to bring in a bit of wisdom, bring in a bit of insight. I find it really great for the third eye chakra. Maybe I'm influenced by the blue color, the deep blue color of it, but I find it works really well for that.
Well, so I mean, that is a valid thing, though. That is the whole point of doctrine of signatures, that you look and go, well, what can I see in front of me? Well, I can see blue, and blue is, as you said, brow
Yeah.
chakra. Yeah.
Some other people have used it as well. They've found putting it in a little spritzer bottle and spritzing around, finding it for kind of alleviating bad luck or misfortune or just having a bad run. I know Roman Camel very good for abundance, especially being in golden oil. I'll actually pop a couple of drops of Roman Camel in my hand soap. So whenever I'm washing my hands, I'm like bringing in the money with that golden energy, and it's calming to the hands as well. But for more getting rid of the bad, then yeah, that's where I'd probably go for the blue chamomile and that kind of surrounding yourself in a bit of angel mist in a way.
I do think angels is a good word to use for matricaria. And in terms of cleansing the aura, and I intend to do some more detailed work on this particularly, for people for working with the aura. But a lot of the whole thing of changing one's look is about moving the negativity out of one's aura.
Yeah.
And so this idea of cleaning it, and we get this whatever will be, that's a different charge completely to I know bad stuff's coming. And so yeah, completely changing the magnetism of the aura is definitely a matricaria thing.
Yes. Now, before we wrap up today, we have had a couple of people reaching out to us going, what happened to the masterclasses? What's brewing? I guess we can give little teasers. We found that people were really interested in the full moons. We found that people were interested on what am I meant to do on the full moons? And we noticed that different pantheons of goddesses and people are being interested in different goddesses as well. So should we just plant those three seeds and let people know that something exciting is coming up, Liz?
I'll plant another one though, because I think it's interesting that if you there's lots written and lots of like Instagram posts each month and whatever of like it's full moon in Libra. This is what that is. But it will be different for you based on what house you're in, based on your astrological signs. So full moon in Libra will have a different effect for you if it's in your first house than to if it's in your sixth house. So we'll be going into that and looking and get really fine detailing of, okay, what this is what we're expecting might happen to you this month. And so these are the oils that would be helpful for those challenges. I think it's quite a big piece of work, but I'm excited with it.
Yes, and we can't wait to share that. We will have more details coming out in a few weeks. So stay tuned to our social media platforms. Stay tuned to this. We'll have the links in our upcoming episodes as well. So we can't wait to share that with you. So anything else that we've missed about German chamomile?
No. So I would say, well, actually, I will say, so because it's so gentle, there may be a tendency to think, oh, I can use it on babies. If you really had to use an oil on a baby, then this would be the one that I would recommend for things like colic and things like that. But personally, I would say do not use any essential oils on a baby less than 6 months old unless it's a really acute condition, because the oils on their skin haven't formed properly. So that's the first one. But in terms of safety for kids, very, very safe, and would be one of my chosen oils for kids. Maximum dilution is 3%, and it's safe in pregnancy after 16 weeks.
Amazing. Well, thank you everyone for joining us for Fellowship in Essential Oils, our exploration into the beautiful and magical blue chamomile, also known as German chamomile. We'll be back next week when we dive in to another magical oil. Until then, take care.
Bye-bye.